Hi guys, back again. Football Heaven 24/7. I'm your host Jamie Carter. Now, what I'm going to do, this one's predominantly for Forest fans today, but I'm going to go through from the 1970s all the way through to 2000. Just top goal scorers, league positions for Forest, um, other notable things maybe through the seasons that I can chuck in here and there. So we're starting in the 70-71 season. At that time, Forest are sitting in 16th, finished 16th in the Division One table. Now they've got the key players for Forest at that time. The top goal scorer is Ian Storymore, and he has 18 goals for Forest, and he gets 22 goals in all competitions. Now, looking through the season in general, Arsenal finished top of the table, and Leeds United finished in second in the 70-71 season, but at home to Leeds United, Forest draw 0-0. At home to Arsenal, they lose 3-0. So obviously the signs of the champions there. Forest, as I say, finished 16th. They have 14 wins from 42 games, 8 draws and 20 defeats. They scored 42 goals that season and let in 61. So we can see that aside from Ian Storymore, Forest have a really poor season for scoring. In general, 42 goals in 42 games is not very good. Obviously, that's one goal a game. And because it's back then, it's 2 points for a win and one for a draw. Forest finish with 36 points. They don't get relegated. They miss out on that by 2 points. So finishing 16th. So jumping from the 70-71 season, going to the 71-72 season, Ian Storymore yet again is the top scorer for Nottingham Forest. He finishes with 13 goals and 14 goals in all competitions. Unfortunately for Forest, Derby County win the league that season under what would be to come their greatest manager ever. But in the 71-72 season, unfortunately, Derby County absolutely smashed it. Well, they didn't smash it. They won the league by 1 point over Leeds United, Liverpool, and Manchester City, who all finished with 57 points just behind them. So a really tightly contested league title, but Derby win it by 1 point. And unfortunately, that season, Forest go down into Division Two after finishing in 21st out of 22 teams. So not a great season for Forest. They only win 8 games, draw 9, lose 25, score 47 goals and let in 81. I suppose the signs were there from the season before, finishing 16th in 70-71. So Forest are now down, going into the 72-73 season. They're now down in Division 2. And Ian Storymore's gone off, and he's now playing for another team. So without Ian Storymore, Forest start to struggle a bit. The decline starts, a little bit of a decline starts, and Forest finish 14th in Division 2. Top goal scorers, you've got Duncan McKenzie in those 6, Martin O'Neill with 6 goals each, and a guy called Jay Galley at the top with 6 goals. So 4 players share the top scoring thing with 6 goals each, but as you can tell, it's a very, very poor season for Forest. After getting relegated the previous season, in the 72-73 season, they do have another really woeful season, finishing 14th. As I say, they win 14 games, draw 12, lose 16, 47 goals, 452 against, finish with 40 points. So very, very poor season. Then going into the 73-74 season, Dave Mackay's in charge at the start of the season until October, and then he's replaced by Alan Brown from November onwards. The top goal scorer for the season is Duncan McKenzie. Now, he scores a lot of goals for Forest. He scores 26 goals as the top goal scorer. Lyle finishes in second with 11 goals. Forest making a massive improvement on the previous season, having finished 14th in the 72-73 season. They now finish in the 73-74 season in 7th place. But they're still miles off getting promoted back into Division 1. A very poor season for again, but a bit of an improvement on the previous season. Notable players coming in: Ian Bowyer, who would later go on to become a Forest great, comes in from Leyton Orient. Barry Butlin comes in from Luton Town. Steve Peplow from Swindon. So those the 2 players before Ian Bowyer obviously didn't go on and do much. But as I say, Duncan McKenzie shows his quality, finishing top goal scorer with 26 goals. So that's the one notable thing from the 73-74 season. Then we go into the 74-75 season. A lot of things have happened. Forest, as I say, they finished 7th the previous year, but they go into this season and they finish 16th. Although Most notably, Brian Clough, after handing in his resignation after a couple of seasons with Derby County, he then goes and has a brief spell at Brighton, but then he goes to the champions Leeds in the 73-74 season. As we know, he gets sacked after 80 odd days, but not long later, he then comes to Forest and takes over from Alan Brown on January 1975, which is to prove the most crucial point in Nottingham Forest history to date. And he takes over in January. But although there's a lot of damage already done, Clough comes in, he's trying to cement his new style, but Forest still end up finishing 16th in Division 2, which is not very great. Anyway, Brian Clough's Martin finishes the top goal scorer with 10 goals. But in the first full season for Forest, under Brian Clough in the 75-76 season, Forest end up finishing 8th. So nothing spectacular. You can't see quite the signs of genius coming from Brian Clough at the moment, but the signing from the previous season, Ian Bowyer, finishes as a top goal scorer with 13 goals. John O'Hare finishes in second with 9 goals. John O'Hare was a crucial player that played in the title-winning team for Derby back in the 71-72 season. So he's been brought into the Forest team. John Robertson is starting to show some form. He gets 5 goals. As I say, Forest finished 7th. Their league record, 8th. Their league record for the 75-76 season is 117, drawn 12, lost 13. They finished with 55 goals, a 4 and 40 against. So not spectacular, but a lot better than the previous season. A rise of 8 places to finish, as I say, in 8th in the 75-76 season. Now, the next season proves to be one of the most defining seasons for the Forest. Brian Clough has his first full season in charge for Nottingham Forest, and it starts to show. And Forest eventually get automatic promotion. They just scrape through by 1 point over Bolton Wanderers, who finished 4th, and Blackpool, who finished 5th. They finished with 52 points, finishing 3rd, but Wolves win the title, the Division 2 title in 76-77. Chelsea finished 2nd. Top goal scorers for Forest that have been brought in. Peter With is coming from Birmingham City. He finishes top goal scorer for Forest with 16. Tony Woodcock finishes in second place with 11 goals. Bowyer's up there as well again, Ian Bowyer with 12 goals. So some of these players that have come in are starting to make a massive, massive difference. Most notably also as well, Gary Birtles comes into the team from Long Eaton United, a local non-league team. Forest start to pick things up. They've won the Anglo-Scottish Cup under Clough. It's the first time that they've won anything with Clough, and they get promoted into the top flight. Now, this next season is to prove so far the greatest season in Nottingham Forest history, the greatest turnaround of a team over a few seasons that's ever been seen in the English football. Forest, as I say, finished 3rd in Division 2 in the 76-77 season, but going into the 77-78 season, it was their greatest season. They won the First Division title. They didn't win it by only a couple of points. They won it by 7 points over Liverpool. In 3rd was Everton and Manchester City in 4th. Top scorer for the season is Peter With, yet again with 12 goals. Tony Woodcock gets in there with 11, and John Robertson has 12 goals. And Martin O'Neill has 8 goals. So you can see Forest proving a hell of a lot. Forest also in the League Cup after a replay against Liverpool, where they have to play the replay. They play it at Old Trafford at Manchester, and they win thanks to a penalty, which apparently was outside the box. But Peter Taylor, the assistant manager at the time, says, well, the only thing that matters is that they were the ones that got their hands on the trophy. So he tells the reporters straight when they tried to quiz him over whether it was a penalty. In that season, crucial players that came in that really helped the team to go on to become champions. Kenny Burns came in from Birmingham City. Became one of the probably the best defender. In fact, probably the most loved player by Brian Clough in his whole time as Nottingham Forest manager. They used to call him Kenneth Burns, obviously. Archie Gemmell came in from Derby County, who had also worked with, obviously, Brian Clough in the title-winning side of 71-72 with Derby. Peter Shutton came in from Stoke City. obviously a world-class goalkeeper at that time, and David Needham from QPR. So Peter Shilton in particular, Kenny Burns and Archie Gemmill made a massive, massive difference to that Forest team. They kept a lot of clean sheets thanks to the goalkeeping of Peter Shilton, and obviously the greatest ever season that Forest have had so far to date, obviously being 2022 now. But going into the next season, could Forest repeat the same as the previous season? They came very, very close in the 78-79 season. They just finished second, but they finished this time 8 points behind Liverpool instead of 7 points ahead. Another great season for Forest, though, as they won the League Cup for a second season running, beating Southampton 3-2. Two goals from Birtles and one from Woodcock, and also winning their first ever European Cup final, which is now known as the Champions League, thanks to a diving header at the far post from Trevor Francis, who was the first player to sign for a football club for 1 million back at that time in 1978. So Forest win, as I say, they win that. They win the Charity Shield as well, 5-0. Goals from Martin O'Neill with 2, Peter With, Larry Lloyd, and John Robertson all score. So Forest pick up three trophies that season, but just miss out to Liverpool, as I say. Gary Birtles, the new youngster, came through the last few seasons. He finishes top scorer for Forest in the league with 14 goals, 25 overall in all competitions. Martin O'Neill's in second with 10 goals in the league, but 16 overall. John Robertson gets 9 goals in the league, but has 16 overall competitions. And Tony Woodcock finishes with 10 goals in the league, but has 15 overall. So great goal contributions, a lot of goals scored. Forest's record for the season is played 42, won 21. So that's half the games that they played last season. That season they won. Drew 16 and only lost 3. They scored 61 goals and let in 26. But when you're looking at Liverpool, who finished above them, Liverpool had 85 goals and let in 16. So you can quite clearly see that Liverpool had improved their attack from the previous season and their defence as well. So fair play to Liverpool. But Forest had an outstanding season despite that, winning their first European Cup trophy after winning the First Division. Never been done before. We'll never see the likes of it again, I don't think. Maybe not in my lifetime. If I do, it'll be a miracle. But yeah, great season for Forest yet again. So these are the glory days for Forest, the last 2 seasons. Going into the 1980 season, there's a lot of expectation, but unfortunately in the league, Forest slip a bit. They go down to 5th. They finish with 46 points, 48 points even. Liverpool win the title again, finishing with 60. Manchester United are in second with 58. Top goal scorer for the season is John Robertson. Trevor Francis is in second. Top goal scorer actually in the league is with 14 goals is Trevor Francis. So paying back some of that £1 million that came in for him, which was massive money back in the 70s, obviously. So they finished 5th. They had a decent season, a couple of good wins, 4-0 away at home to Crystal Palace, beat Bolton Wanderers 5-2, beat Wolves 3-2 in a double, beat Liverpool 1-0 at home. Had some really, really good results there. In the League Cup, they only just lost out. They were going for their 3rd League Cup triumph on the road. Didn't get it. Wolves won 1-0. So not very good for them in the end. That, but yet again, beautiful was a European Cup win. So that's back-to-back European Cup wins for them now. John Robertson scored against Hamburg for a 1-0 win. And then going into the Super Cup, they won the Super Cup 2-1 thanks to a goal from Burns in the second leg. So that got them to winning the European Cup for the second time in the row. Only lost out narrowly in the League Cup to Wolves, so that was not very good for them. But anyway, so they finished in 5th. Anyway, going into the next season, we're looking at 1980-81. Forest finished 7th. Ian Wallace finishes top goal scorer with 13 goals. So not a great season for them, really, to be honest. They've had a bit of a decline, but won so many trophies over the last 3 or 4 seasons. It's very, very hard for them to be able to, to keep that up. To be fair, going into 81-82 season, Forest finished 12th. Ian Wallace yet again is the top goal scorer with 9 goals. But yeah, Forest are in a little bit of a decline. Mind you, the last 4 seasons they've won so many trophies, done so many great things. that you can sort of forgive Forest for now rebuilding a bit. They've had a decline. They dropped to 12th in the table in the 81-82 season. Not really that great for them, but we're going to the 82-83 season. Forest are now, they've improved on the 12th position from previous season. They finished fifth. Um, they've won 20 games, drawn 9, lost 13. But like I say, they're finishing fifth. Then going into the 83-84 season, Davenport's the top scorer for them with 15 goals. They finished third in the league, so a great season from that season. In the UEFA Cup, they get all the way to the semi-finals, but they get knocked out by Anderlecht in the semi-finals. And then we go into 84-85 season. Everton finishes as the league winners. Davenport yet again finishes the top goal scorer with 16 goals. Forest finishing ninth. So yeah, an average season for them, but now they're an established Division 1 team thanks to the great guidance of obviously the legendary Brian Clough, who, as I say, he's already won 2 League Cups, 2 European Cups, a league title, Charity Shields. He's won a lot of trophies. He's nearly got on the UEFA Cup in those first 5 or 6 seasons in charge for him. So he's done miraculous things, but of course it's very, very tough to keep going now. Forest are into the 85-86 season now, and Nigel Clough is the top goal scorer, the son of the manager Brian Clough. He finishes with 15 goals. Neil Webb finishes the second top goal scorer with 14, and Davenport finishes with 13 and third, having been the top goal scorer for the previous 2 seasons. Forest finishing 8th. The biggest win of the season is 4-0 at home to Queen's Park Rangers. The average age of the new team for the 85-86 season is only 23 years and 258 days. So as you can see, Forest under Brian Clough is starting to rebuild a young team that will serve him well in the future. Several of those players will obviously continue on to get close and to win trophies, more trophies and things for Forest over the coming seasons. But as I say, they finished 8th in the 85-86. We go into 86-87 season. Forest finished 8th again. Nigel Clough is a joint top goal scorer with Gary Birtles, who comes out of nowhere, I suppose after injuries or something. Gary Birtles is up there with Neil Webb yet again. They've all got 14 goals each in the league. Decent return. Forest, in 42 games, they win 18, they draw 11. They lose 13 games. They finish with 64 goals for and 51 against. Biggest win of the season is 6-0 against Aston Villa on the 13th of September 1986. But anyway, yeah, they don't do much in the cup competitions. They get knocked out in third round against Crystal Palace 1-0 away, and they lose round 5, which I believe is the quarter-final stage, to Arsenal 2-0. So steady season for Forest, but no trophies won or anything. And then we go into the 87-88 season, and Forest have a lot better season than the previous seasons. They finished third this season. Nigel Clough yet again is top goal scorer with 19 goals. Neil Webb yet again finishes in second with 13 goals, just behind Nigel Clough. Forest's biggest win of the season is 5-0 against Portsmouth, and then against Hereford in the League Cup as well. Transfers in: Gary Crosby comes in from Lincoln City, Tommy Gaynor from Doncaster Rovers, Nigel Jempson from Preston North End, Gary Parker comes in from Hull City. So yeah, Forest finished third. Their league record is played 40, won 20, so 1/2 the games of that season, drawn 13, lost 7. They finished with 67 goals for and 39 against, with a points tally of 73 points. And then we jump from there into the 88-89 season. Forest yet again have a great season. This time they win a couple of trophies. They finish third. Top goal scorer again, like I say, is Nigel Clough is making a habit of it, finishing top goal scorer of the 88-89 season with 14 goals. Total goals overall in all competitions is 21. Forest league record is 117, drawn 13, lost 8, scored 64, let in 43. But Forest that season, they lose in the FA Cup semi-final to Liverpool after, unfortunately, the Hillsborough disaster, where the game's abandoned after 6 minutes due to, unfortunately, fans getting crushed in an accident that happened, which was very sad. but in the replay, Forest lose 3-1 at Old Trafford. Webb scores a goal. So sad ending in the FA Cup. Obviously, it's a trophy that Clough never won, which is unlucky, really. He won everything else he could win. But in the League Cup, better news. They beat Luton Town in the final 3-1. 2 goals from Clough, 1 a penalty, and 1 from Neil Webb. Allowed them to win 3-1. And then also in the Simon Cup, Everton are beaten 4-3, and that game's played at Wembley. 2 goals from Gary Parker and 2 from Lee Chapman set Forest on the way to another victory at Wembley. So 2 trophies won that in the 88-89 season, so very good improvement. Going into the 1989-90 season, Forest finished 9th this season. The top goal scorer is Steve Hodge this time with 10 goals. Nigel Clough finishes as the second top goal scorer with 9. So so not a fantastic season, but they finished 9th. They're a steady now mid-table Division 1 team. After the last 2 seasons where they finished 3rd, as I say, 89-90, they finished in 9th position. Their league record is 115, drawn 9, lost 14, 55 goals for and 47 against, 54 points overall, and they win the League Cup thanks to beating Oldham Athletic 1-0 in the final. Nigel Jempson scores the winner in that game. So, yeah, not a bad season there. So going into the next season, it's the 1990-91 season for Forest. Forest finish 8th in the 1990-91 season. The league record is 114, drawn 12, lost 12, 65 goals for and 50 against, and 54 points overall. Nigel Clough is top goal scorer with 14. Stuart Pearce finishes in the second highest with 11 goals. And that's that for that season. And then 91-92 season, Forest finish 8th. They're making a habit of finishing 8th and 9th at this particular point. Top goal scorer is Teddy Sheringham with 13 goals that season. And in second is Roy Keane with 8 goals, and Scott Gemmell scores 8 goals as well. So not a bad season for us. The league record is 116, drawn 11, 115. Lost 15 even. Goals for 60 and goals against 58 and 59 points overall in that season. So, 91-92. 92-93 would prove to be sad on many levels. One, because Forest got relegated in the first Premiership season ever, but also because it was through the end of Brian Clough's management at Forest. He'd been at Forest from January 1975, and he retired from being Forest manager on the last day of the season on May the 8th, away at Ipswich Town, where Forest lost 2-1 and a goal from his son, Nigel Clough penalty. They finished bottom of the Premier League with 40 points. Their record in 42 games was 110, drawn 10 and lost 22. Only 41 goals all season and letting 62. Nigel Clough, his son, finished top goal scorer with 10. Gary Bannister finished in second with 8 goals. Roy Keane finished third with 6. Roy Keane would obviously go and play get signed to Manchester United for £3.75 million. Forest got relegated, as I say, into Division 2. What was now Division 1, but used to be Division 2. So they dropped down a level for the first time since 1977, so a very, very long time. So my maths ain't great, but I'm thinking that's along the lines of trying to work it out. 30. It's a long time. We're looking at a long time. So anyway, I think it was 16 years they were in the top flight, and then they've got relegated. So the next season, in the 93-94, Frank Clark takes over, which is a former player of the previous manager, Brian Clough. Won the two European trophies with him, as well as League Cups and the only league title that Forest ever won in their history. So he takes over. Now, they start off the season quite poorly. Within the first 10 games, they've only won 2 of those and lost 4 or 5 of those already. So, but then they sign Stan Collymore from Southend United, and things start to pick up. Stan Collymore starts to find his shooting boots, coming into sort of around October time. But Forest don't really hit form till sort of like late October. and then they go on this run where they only lose 3 games in about 18 matches, which basically helps to propel them. In fact, they only lose 4 games in the last 30 odd matches, and Forest go from being right near the bottom to finishing second in the league in Division 1. They finish with a record of 46 games played, won 23, drew 14, lost 9, goals for 74, and goals against 49. Top goal scorer is Stan Collymore with 19, and Colin Cooper is in second with 7 goals. He's in third with 7 goals. Scott Gemmell is actually the second top goal scorer with 8 goals. So, yeah, great. Forest are back into the Premier League, into the 94-95 season. They do fantastically, mainly down to the goals of Stan Collymore, who they signed, obviously, the previous season from Southend United. He finishes with 22 goals. Brian Roy, who they signed from Foggia at the start of the season, finishes with 13. Forest finished third, most notably winning 2-1 away at Manchester United, and some great wins against Sheffield Wednesday, winning 4-1 at home and 7-1 away from home. So yeah, Forest, a very great season that season. In fact, it's their greatest Premier League season to date, finishing third. Could they improve on that the following season? The answer was no. They finished ninth. Ian Wone was up joint top goal scorer with Brian Roy. Both had 8 goals that season. Ian Wone scored 12 goals in all competitions. He scored some absolute pearlers, though, that season. It was the first main season that I can remember as a kid. He scored some great free kicks. 2 fantastic free kicks against Tottenham in a replay. Just outstanding goals. The second one was like something that you would think only Brazilian players could do. It was that much of a great goal. But Forest, yeah, they got knocked out in the quarterfinals in the FA Cup to Villa, losing 1-0 at home. Franz Carr, an old Forest player, scored against them. They also played in the UEFA Cup, having finished third the previous season. They got all the way to the quarterfinals, but they got smashed by the eventual winners of the UEFA Cup, Bayern Munich. They lost only 2-1 away at the Bayern Munich's ground. A goal from Steve Chettle, a great goal actually to open the game early on from a corner. It was a diamond header, quite similar to Francis's against Malmo years ago, but a cross in, but headed beautifully at the far post. Forest finished ninth, still respectable in the 95-96 season. But yeah, just couldn't really improve on that. The biggest win of the season, like I say, was this season was winning 4-1 against Wimbledon, which I saw on Sky Sports. I remember watching that with my mate at his house because he had Sky Sports and we didn't have it back then. So and I just remember Brian Roy's cheeky little back flick, Pierce's free kick, which was amazing. Jason Lee actually had a good season despite getting ripped by Badil and Skinner on Fantasy League football, which was quite funny to watch as a kid. But yeah, going into 95, 96, 97, bad times. Team got relegated. They went down. They finished bottom of the league in 20th. But Stuart Pearce was the manager at this time because obviously Frank Clark had got sacked at the start of the season. It not been great for him really. Dave Bassett came in to sort of assist Stuart Pearce, the former Wimbledon manager, but really it didn't really pay off. Forest, yeah, they finished bottom. Kevin Campbell was top goal scorer with 6 goals. Haaland finished equal top with him with 6 goals as well. But they had a poor season. They out of 38 games, they won 6, they drew 16, they lost 16. Goals for was 31 and goals against was 59. So yeah, not a great season, 96, 97. But going into 97, 98 season, you're looking at it now. Forest done something great. They were now under the stewardship of Dave Bassett, as I say, former Wimbledon crazy gang manager. Pierre van Hooijdonk came into his own this season. He absolutely smashed it, scoring 29 goals in the league and 35 goals overall. He formed a lethal partnership with Kevin Campbell. This kind of partnership had not been seen in Forest history for a long, long time. Well, out of all the seasons I've done from the start of 1970-71, no partnership was as good as this. In the league between them, they got 52 goals together that season. The team as a whole scored 82 goals, which shows that 52 goals were scored by them, but 30 goals were scored by the rest of the team. So great all-round season for Forest. They won the first division title, which was obviously the old second division. As I say, fantastic season. Most notable in the season was 5-2 wins against Charlton Athletic and 4-0 wins against against Middlesbrough, and then beating Wolves 3-0. Teams that were all finishing sort of like up near that area of the league, all challenging to get promoted. So great season. I just remember watching it and listening to it a lot on Radio Nottingham with Colin Frey, who's still doing the commentary to this day, which is absolutely insane. And it was beautiful when Forest went up into the Premier League for the first time in 23 years. Recently, it was beautiful to see Colin Frey interviewing the chairman, Angelos Marinakis, and also the great manager at the moment of Forest, Steve Cooper. So currently, Forest are in 19th in the Premier League in 2022, but back in 97-98, they'd won what's now the Championship. They'd become league winners of that. So that was great. Next season, they came up. Pierre Van Hooijdonk went on strike, mainly down to the reason that the owners of Forest, they didn't set up a contract quick enough that was good enough for Kevin Campbell, and Kevin Campbell was taken to a Turkish team. Pierre Van Hooijdonk said because of the lack of investment from mainly the chairman, it was not the manager's fault or anybody like that, but the chairman, they used to be in charge of Spurs, and they just were looking to get a profit. In all honesty, they didn't really care that much about the team locally, and Pierre Van Hooijdonk, as a result of Forest not bringing in many new players, said that the club had no ambition and went on strike. Now, I kind of agree with him in a bit, but I don't agree with him going on strike. You're under a contract, you get paid. You wouldn't do that in any other job. At the time, I was really pissed off, to be honest. To be honest with him, because he was. If he had been there from start to finish, maybe it would have been a different story. Having said that, Forest finished 11 points off safety, so I'm not sure even with Pierre Van Hooijdonk playing, even he'd proven himself at Championship level, but he'd not proven himself at Premier League level. So it's hard to know, but he finished second top goal scorer with 6 goals. Dougie Freedman finished with 9 goals, but Forest still went down 20th position. After 38 games, the 38 games they'd won only 7, drew 9, and they lost 22 games. So very, very poor season for Forest. Forest now slipped into Division 1. Obviously, they're in, which is the old Division 2. They have a really, really poor season. Now in charge, David Platt, which you would think would be good, but it wasn't. He was absolutely useless. So 99-2000 season, Forest finished 14th. Platt tried to bring in players from Italy, but that didn't work.